Part 4. Pictures of Buchenwald. Chapter 13. Again I am sitting on a train. It is not a freight car. It is not an open wagon. I sit on a seat. I gaze out the window at the scenery flashing by. It's spring, and I have just turned 18. And once more I decide to go through my pictures to organize everything so I can remember. This time, some of the pictures are in my head. Some I hold in my hand. The first ones are those in my head. The first picture I see is the large hall where we were taken after our arrival at Buchenwald. We were fed some soup and told we would stay there for 3 weeks of quarantine. In a way, this wasn't such a terrible time. We were fed, if little. We didn't have to work. And it was not too cold in the room because of all the bodies. Peter was there, and we spent much of the time talking, telling each other our stories. We gained back a little of our strength. When we were finally put into the regular camp, it was an unpleasant shock. The inmates in our barracks were very rough, and every night there were terrible fights between the Ukrainians and the Poles. We discovered that this was the camp where most political prisoners were sent. The communists and socialists Hitler hated so much. Quickly, Father tried to organize jobs for us. One day, we were both called to the main camp. I see photo after photo in my head. The Nazis had created a little paradise for themselves, with grassy parks, beautiful lodges, even a zoological garden filled with pampered animals. It was quite unbelievable to see such beauty amid the squalor of the barracks. Father was put to work in a carpentry workshop, making ornate furniture for SS men. I was taken to a photography studio, where I was ordered to take photos of the guards and their families on request. An older inmate ran the studio, and he needed an assistant. His name was Karl, and he was a political prisoner, not a Jew. He'd been in Buchenwald since 1939. He was a communist, and, I found out later, a member of the resistance in Buchenwald. Buchenwald did have a crematorium to burn the many that died of disease, torture, medical experiments, and so on. But it was not a killing center like Auschwitz-Birkenau. Nevertheless, men died quickly there from the terrible conditions. I can see the picture of the first clients who came into our studio shortly after I arrived. There was a tall, fair SS man, with his tall, blonde wife and their 2 blonde, blue-eyed children. The children, both girls, were dressed in frilly white dresses, probably stolen from some poor dead Jewish families, I thought. The mother in a stylish blue dress and high heels, the father in his SS uniform. They arranged themselves smartly for the camera and followed Karl's instructions to the letter. They looked so content, so well fed, the model of a perfect family. The father kissed the children pleasantly when the pictures had been taken. The model father. Later that day, I was running an errand for Karl, going to pick up some chemicals he needed from another building. A young boy, he couldn't have been more than 13, was sweeping the walkway. The SS officer whose picture Karl had just taken informed the boy that he'd missed a piece of dirt. The child ran to sweep it up. The SS man shot him in the leg. With a cry, the child fell forward. "Get up and keep working," the officer yelled. The child dragged himself up and continued to sweep. The officer shot him in the other leg. "Get up, get working, you lazy idiot," the officer screamed. The child tried, but obviously he couldn't get up. The officer emptied his gun into the child's body. I was frozen to the spot, just behind them, my whole body trembling with both anger and fear. I knew very well that I could be next. And, in fact, he did turn and see me. "Clean that up," he ordered as he walked off. The loving father, 2 children of his own, and yet he was capable of that. I felt so sick I thought I would vomit, but before I could do anything, 2 camp capos rushed out and took the body away, leaving me standing there in the street. I quickly came to my senses and ran to get the chemicals for Karl. When I got back, I told him what I'd seen. I was so distraught that I lost all sense of caution and told him of my use of photography at Auschwitz. Well, well, he said. I'm glad to hear that, Daniel. There is plenty of work here for those who want to be part of the resistance. You and your father could be very useful. You say you are good at taking apart machinery and the like. My father and I can put together or take apart almost anything, I said. What is your barracks number? He asked. 34. Be waiting outside after everyone is asleep. Someone will come get you. He paused. Are you willing? Yes, I said. I'll do anything. We spent the rest of the day taking pictures of perfect German families.